Welcome to all you listeners to episode number 2 of CRE Unplugged. I'm Nadine, and I am here with my brother from another mother and my co-host, Ryan Elazari. Ryan, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Nadine?
I'm doing okay, man. I'm doing okay. Dude, as you know, I've started a new wellness program called 75 Hard. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, man. So a good friend of mine from Ohio first told me about it a couple of years ago, and I think she heard about it on TikTok. So like naturally, I just shit all over it. Yeah, of course, I just shit all over it. I was like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, right? And so, no, it's nuts. And so fast forward a couple of years where I'm going to be honest with you, I've totally let myself go, right? Like, starting my own business a couple of years ago, I've just been so all in on that. And one day I was like, listen, things hurt that probably shouldn't hurt at my age. So I gotta do something. And so I don't know, a couple of my friends are doing it and they're like, just do it with us, Nadine, just do it. I was like, all right. It's 75 days long. No alcohol. You got to drink a gallon of water every day. You got to work out twice a day for 45 minutes each time. One of those, which needs to be outdoors. You got to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, and you got to stick to like some type of restricted food diet or whatever, right? So I'm doing intermittent fasting because I'm not very good at cutting things out. And for the first 3 weeks, it was actually very easy to do. So I've got a dog, Leo, right? So I was like, oh, we walk every morning. So check. Outdoor workout. Drinking water was great, right? I'm not a big drinker anyway, so like that wasn't too hard. Everything else just kind of fell into place. The second workout was a little tricky. Like I had a really busy day. I was like, I got to get that in. So for the first 3 weeks, I was like, I felt superhuman. I was like, this is amazing. And then, when it got hard, man, is when I saw you in Minneapolis for the NAP Forum Symposium, right? Which I got to see you 2 weeks ago. Is really tough because we start early in the day. We go till late at night. We have a dinner that doesn't start till 8. And so I broke it at day like 24. I had a couple cocktails with you guys. I had 2 cocktails at that dinner, and I was totally hungover the next day off of 2 cocktails. So I'm supposed to start over. The program says if you miss one thing, like just one thing, you got to start over. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. No.
So I'm back on. I've modified it a little bit. The second workout now is like half an hour. I'm setting myself up for success. I'm still seeing results. I feel great. So yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
And you're not doing the Ozempic way, which I think is...
No, I'm not doing it the Ozempic way. I'm not, I'm not taking from those that actually need it for, diabetes or whatever. So yeah, man, I feel good. I'm sleeping great. My energy is great. My mental clarity, it's awesome. It's great. So that's my world. And I'm really excited to see you in New York next week. I get to see you twice this month. We'll talk about that in a second. Man, what's going on with you? The kids? I mean, is Rafa sleeping?
Yeah, Rafa's sleeping. He's now 3 months. He's sleeping like 10 hours a day. But my wife and I were taking like the divide and conquer approach on the weekends. Yeah. So I'm really big on taking my daughter, Farah. She's 3. Yeah. My son, Rafa, he's 3 months. And I love taking her out for lunch on the weekend. So, last week we went out for lunch and we're outside. We're trying to enjoy like the atmosphere, like, the streets. And there's just some guy smoking a joint like right in front of us. And I'm just like, can you just please like not do it in front of my daughter? I don't need her getting secondhand high.
Would you ask the person? Would you ever say, "Excuse me, sir"? Would you ever consider that?
It depends on my mood, but if I'm with my daughter, no. I try not to show that side to her.
Does she smell it? Does she say like, "Daddy, what's that skunky smell"?
No, she doesn't.
She doesn't smell it. Okay. All right.
No, I mean, it's wild because, when I was 22, I ended up getting arrested for smoking in the street.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
You did? You got arrested in New York? What happened?
I got arrested. I was in Central Booking for 24 hours. I was with Cribs and Blood members. I'm not joking. It was traumatizing. Yeah.
You had to spend 24
hours. Parents
hours?
still don't know about this. So if they listen, sorry. But yeah, that
What if
happened.
they listen and they find out for the first time now? What's going to go down in the Elazari household? How are they going to react to this news?
I mean, at this point, my parents are pretty cool about pot. But yeah, it was at that time I was terrified to have them find out I
Of
was
course, you're arrested. So wait, you spent the night in jail
spent the night in jail. Yeah.
and they let you go the next day?
I was like just in t-shirt, shorts, and sandals.
Did you have to pee in
Since
front
I
of a
go
bunch of
booking.
guys?
Oh yeah, yeah. I had
Oh
to.
my God,
Yeah,
Ryan.
I know. I know.
I had no idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of things people don't know about me. That's one of them.
Will you ever tell Farah and Rafa these stories about you?
I mean, I think at that point, smoking, like telling them that I smoked weed and I got arrested, they're gonna laugh about that. Like,
Because
really, Dad?
it's gonna be sold at the checkout line at CVS by the time they're old enough. Like they're gonna pick up like a Twix bar and a joint, like check
Yeah,
laundry.
exactly. Yeah, I'll get the flour here and like give me a couple of the
Yeah.
gummies.
And you're like,
No,
kids, when I was your age, I got arrested. So they're gonna be like, what? Like, yeah. I had to spend the night
yeah,
in jail. I had to pee in front of a bunch of gang members.
yeah. It was really it was a tough 2 weeks afterwards. I was like mentally like destroyed.
Seriously?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Did you have
not
like nightmares?
not nightmares, but like for a couple of weeks, I just wasn't like myself.
Yeah, man. You were
Yeah,
scared straight. Shook
yeah.
you up, right?
Well, yeah, it definitely it made me feel like, hey, like don't get in trouble anymore, Ryan. Like it's not worth it.
Did you smoke a joint again after that?
Oh yeah, of course.
How long after your experience?
Not that
The
much,
second you got out?
not the second, but not that much longer. Yeah,
No, but it's like, yeah, it's different. You're out with Farah, beautiful day, you want to enjoy, and then it's like coming right in that sweet little 3-year-old's face.
yeah.
Speaking of cracking up, so excited for our guest today. So let's get started. Bob Gillespie coming up next. Let's do it, man.
Let's do it.
I am wildly excited for today's episode and for today's guest. Today's guest is Bob Gillespie, a fellow Midwesterner like myself. So finally happy to have some Midwestern company with me. Bob is managing partner at Reach Commercial at Second Century Ventures. Second Century is the strategic investment arm of the National Association of Realtors, an association I'm sure maybe a few of you have heard of, which is the most active global real estate tech fund. This guy is a serial entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience in tech leadership and ops. Companies Bob has founded have gone on to raise over $60 million in venture funding with an enterprise value of over $200 million. I think he knows his stuff. In an advisory role, he has worked extensively with hundreds of companies in accelerator and scale-up programs, with his mentorship and network connections, leading to new customers, partnerships, and additional venture funding. This guy's a smarty pants. MBA from the University of Chicago, Booth School of Business, with not just one, but two concentrations, entrepreneurship and finance. And this guy, he has a life too. He loves baseball. He is an avid reader, a huge traveler. We're going to talk about that. He's got a goal to hit 100 countries, and I think he's maybe 2/3 of the way there. He'll talk to us about it. And he is a former stand-up comedian. With all that, welcome, Bob Gillespie.
Thank you. Thanks.
Welcome, Bob.
On. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Ready to my bio. You hear it and you're like, who wrote that? Half that's not even right.
We fact checked. We fact checked it. Yeah. We put Politico on it, and it's all good. Yeah, we fact checked.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining us, man. Where are we talking to you from?
I'm in Chicago. I'm here in Chicago, right in the city. I don't live in a suburb. I live at an intersection. So I'm on the north side of Chicago, a couple miles west of Wrigley Field. So it's called Albany Park is the neighborhood, if you know Chicago.
No, I actually know Chicago really well. My sister did her MBA at DePaul, but I don't know Albany Park. But I mean,
California and Irving Park.
Yeah, all right. I mean, probably because you're by Wrigley, and every time I was at Wrigley, I was pretty drunk. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you get there and stumble west a little bit, you'd run right into it.
Okay. All right. Bob, we read your impressive bio, but man, we'd love to hear from you. You've got an interesting journey, right? You didn't start out immediately in the VC world. So in your own worlds, man, take our listeners on a journey of your career and where you've been and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. I had it wasn't one of those people who was sort of like, when I was 22 coming out of college, I'm like, I want to be this thing and I want to, set my journey. I was sort of like, I want to do something that interests me now.
Yeah.
And if I get good at that, and if I figure that out, it'll lead to another thing I always sort of felt if I pursued a thing and it was working and I enjoyed it and I got good at it, that would lead to the next thing. And I didn't have to spend a lot of time, figuring out where I was going to be in 15 years. I never really felt that way. So I went to a liberal arts college, a little college in Illinois called Knox College. And went there and I majored in computer science and English because I kind of got a right brain, left brain going. I'm very good at math, but then I got the comedy side thing that I did. And then I got out of college and I started writing code for about 9 years. And I was sort of one of the first remote work folks. So I was doing stand-up, just literally open mics. You would go to a bar and sign up for 5 minutes and, there'd be insane people on stage doing their 5 minutes. Some wacko. And then there was a couple of people that sort of started to figure it out. So, and then during the day I would write my code and, I kind of sort of got good at doing stand-up and I started to get booked and I started to be like, okay, now you got to be in, Cleveland and Detroit and Chicago and Indianapolis and Madison, Wisconsin, and all through the Midwest. And I was getting booked all the time. So I went to my employer and said, look, man, I can write code from anywhere. I can take my computer to a hotel. I just sit in front of my desk and write code all day long anyway. And they're like, yeah, man, you're good at this code stuff. So go ahead and do it. So for a long time, probably 10 years, I was on the road. At my peak, I was probably on the road doing 48 weeks of stand-up. I was on TV. You won't find any of my stuff anywhere I owned it. Took it all down because I don't need people creeping on that.
You got to send us the private stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'll plug my brother. My brother Steve Gillespie is he's a great comic. Go look him up. So go look at him and think he's a little bit better than me. But go watch him. He needs it. He's fantastically funny. But anyway, so I did TV and I played. I was in Vegas and played casinos and I did that. But I was good. I was a good comic. I just wasn't like, I know great comics. Like great comics are my friends, and I'm like, yeah, they're just kind of better than me. It's sort of like if you would go to somebody and go, hey, you're an NBA basketball player. You must be really good. And you're like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And then you go, yeah, but that Michael Jordan guy, though, I don't do that. That's a different thing. That's not what I do. That's a different job entirely. I don't know what the hell that is. I don't understand it. That's a different thing. That's kind of how I felt about my friends in comedy that were great. It was like I was good, but I wasn't Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And my personality's kind of like I want to really challenge myself. So I kept doing the computer, the programming and built systems. And I got to move to London for a while and implement a computer system. And, that kind of got me into travel. And then when in 2001, a friend of mine came to me and said, hey man, I got this buddy. He's got a company that's got kind of a good idea. They're doing a bunch of revenue, but they're really hemorrhaging money. And he is sort of lost about what's going on. Would you take a look at it? And I'm like, yeah, I was in consulting. I understand tech, understand process, understand operations. I said, let me come and look at your company and see, kind of what's up. And let me, and I thought I was just helping a buddy out. Right. So dug into his company for about 5 weeks. And I wrote up a report and just said, all right, look, you got four quadrants. You got, this is a giant, massive problem that you need to fix like now. You got this stuff that you're being told is a problem that's noise. You got this stuff that you don't know anything about that's going to be a disaster. And then you got this stuff you can punt. And I kind of laid it out in a grid. And then I said, and then if I were you, I would fix this in 30 days and then this in 90 days, this in 180 days, that. And I kind of gave it to him and said, go forth and fix it. And he came back and said, wow, I really like the way that you think about this. Would you come please and run my company? And I was like, okay, but it was a California company and I was in Chicago and I was like, hey man, you got tech problems, you got a lot of trouble. So if you're going to hire me to do this, you got to let me get rid of a bunch of people and you got to let me bring in my own people because I knew I needed to tap my network of all the people that I'd been successful with. So he said, sure. So we came in and we really turned that company around. We took it from like $1.5 million in revenue to 10 million in about 2.5 years. I think they were losing like $500,000 a year. We took it to like $2 million of profit. And I was there for about 3 years. And then I realized that the dude, my friend's friend, wasn't a very good person. So I had to leave. I probably don't want to say publicly what he was doing, but let's just say he's a pretty bad guy. And I didn't want to be involved with that. And also, I realized he was never going to sell it. I had options, but there was never going to be a liquidity event. He was going to run for cash, and he was going to, maybe screw around with the books and, maybe never pay me any money. So I left. Glad I left, because they've never sold that company. That company still gets run for cash. Still have friends there that I brought in. But it just, then I knew I could run a company. I knew it. So then I went back into consulting for about 4 or 5 years. And then a friend of mine called me with an idea, and we started a company called In Context Solutions. It was a friend of mine. He was the consumer insights director at General Mills, and he said, "Hey, man, there's this problem in our industry, and nobody can build this thing that we want." And me and another guy and him got together and built it. And then that company we just got really big, really quick. We got Wrigley Mars, Johnson & Johnson, ConAgra, Best Buy, Walgreens. We just got everybody right away, raised a bunch of money. I was there about 4 years. And that was kind of when I realized I'm a good early stage and building stage guy. And I'm not a good, like, when you got like 120, 80 employees, 120 employees, you need like an HR person. You got to have like a manual. Like, I'm not your guy anymore, right? I'm not like, let's staff meeting, and then you got to call a thing, and you got to, I'm just like, no, hey, you, Nadine and Ryan, you guys go fix that thing. Joe, you go jack around and figure that out. And I'm going to go figure this out, and then we'll come back and we'll fix it, and not commit. Like, I'm just not that guy. Right.
Yeah.
So, I left there, and then I went and started something fresh again called Conference Software Solution. Well, actually, Networking Research Group. And then I sold that to Conference Software Solutions in like 9 months. And then we sold that business again. So that was 3 times I had done that. And I was kind of tired of like being the entrepreneur. It's the best and worst job you'll ever have. It's terrible. It's great, and it's awful. And I was kind of looking for something new to do. And a friend of mine, a guy who had invested in one of my companies, another Chicago booth guy, Serhat, real good friend of mine, great guy, came to me and said, "Hey, he's a Turkish American guy." And he said, "Hey, I'm launching an accelerator in Turkey. Would you like to be involved? Because I like your style. I like the stuff that you teach. You're an early stage guy." And I'm like, "I get to go to Istanbul and Ankara for 2 years? Absolutely." So I went and did that. We bridged a bunch of companies from Turkey over to the U.S. We had a Turkish venture fund ready to go. And then if you followed Turkish politics, Turkish economics, not a real good place to be invested right now. Luckily, we sort of saw that coming before it really degenerated. When I was going there, I believe the lira was 1.5 lira for $1, and now I think it's over 30 now. It's ludicrous. You can go there, literally take like $50 and go live like a king over there if you want to.
Right.
So came back to the States, and I was always like these kind of things. I love this, because of my comedy background. I love to speak in public. I have like some startup type presentations that I do, but I take them and I make them funny and engaging. So I have a lot of accelerators and colleges and business schools and accelerator, incubator, all that kind of stuff that would ask me to come and say, "Hey, man, would you do some of your talks and would you mentor?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I would do that. And, I have some certain skill sets that I think are really deep. I tend to go really deep in things. And one of the accelerators called the Elm Spring Accelerator Chicago was like one of the very first PropTech accelerators in the country. And their managing partner, or I don't remember her title, but she was leaving, and they were like, "Hey, we need a new person. Bob, you're like our highest rated mentor. Do you know anybody?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, I'm back from Turkey, and that'd be pretty interesting for me." So I went there and took that over. I was there for about 3 years. I managed a portfolio. I invested, I think, in 19 companies. I think I managed a portfolio of 42 at its peak. Had a couple of really good exits. Kin Insurance, who's going to be a unicorn, they'll probably go public 2026 probably. They were in that portfolio. So Kin, a Chicago homeowners insurance company that'll probably be, well over $1 billion when they go public. That was in that portfolio. Ran that for 3 years, and then Second Century Ventures, where I am now, came to us and they said, "Hey, we're a big PropTech venture fund. We have we can dig into this, but we have an accelerator called Reach, and we are residential focused in our solution set. We want to launch a Reach commercial focused accelerator scale up program. We think that you'd be a really good fit. So why don't we buy Elm Spring? We'll bring you in. You can manage the Elm Spring portfolio, and then you can take over Reach Commercial, and you can spin up the Reach Commercial portfolio. So I've been doing that. This is my 6th year. I've invested in 38 companies. I'm about to make 8 more offers this year. So I sort of went from technology guy to operations and finance to running 3 companies, to being tired of that, and then kind of wanting to get onto the venture accelerator side. And now I really enjoy working with a portfolio of companies. I like managing a portfolio. I like working with like 80 different solutions of people. I like deal flow. I like learning about companies. I like coaching entrepreneurs. I like doing venture deals. So I've been doing that for the last. This is my 6th year at Second Century Ventures. How was that? How did I do? Is it funny? I don't feel like it's funny enough.
No, I mean, I just keep saying to myself, you're like a present day Renaissance man with all
I wasn't swearing in my introduction.
I don't. It didn't feel right to laugh at you while you were doing that, man. Like,
I'll try to pick it up for the rest of this. Maybe a little fun.
Yeah, no, we're laying the foundation right now.
All right,
we're laying the foundation.
You gotta ease in. You gotta go slow.
Yeah, man, come on.
But Bob, what I want to know, and you touched on this very briefly, like what qualities from stand-up comedy you were able to bring into your current role?
Yeah, it's I think part of it is things like this. I'm very maybe other people don't enjoy it, but I can get on these kind of things and run my mouth without really having to prep or think about it. I can. I'm not kidding, man. You could people they're like nervous about getting up and doing a deck or a presentation. You could say, Bob, take one of your decks and go to a Denny's where everybody's at hammered at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you do it. And I'm like, oh, I'm all over that. I don't give a shit. I've done stand up in like where I've done stand up in like Menominee Falls, Wisconsin. I don't give a shit about speaking in public. I don't. So I can. I'm pretty good at that. I can put a couple sentences together. Pitches, I can really tell. Jokes and pitches and all that. It's telling a story and communicating a point of view and communicating, your thoughts and dream and vision. And a joke is presenting that and then turning it so it's funny. And you use all those things all the time in sales, selling your vision with employees. I tend to, in our staff meetings, when things are tense, I tend to be the one who starts to jack around and make everybody feel a little bit more loose. So you kind of use your humor every day, I think, as a professional. And then, anytime you can speak in public or be interviewed and kind of communicate well, I think is always, a skill that I don't think a lot of people put their headphones on and won't even look at you anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
I got an 18-year-old son, man. That kid hasn't talked to me in 2 years. So I don't know,
That's what I'm worried about with my kids.
Yeah.
You've got time, though. You've got time.
I know.
Yeah. I just got to ask them, here's the thing is when they're like, once they're like 15-year-old boys, you just ask them, hey, what's the score of the Bulls game or whatever? 106-42. And you're like, yay, I got an answer.
Yeah, but he's got a daughter and a son. So the daughter might not want to talk to you from like 15 to, I don't know.
How old are they, Ryan?
My daughter is 3 and my son is 3 months.
Oh God, yeah, you got they're good till they're 13, and then both. I don't know girls. I just got my one boy. 13 to 15, dumbest thing, not even person, dumbest organism on the planet. Every teenage boy, 13 to 15, moronic.
Oh, I love your back. Okay, a couple things that I love that you always just kind of went after what you were into at the moment, right? And I feel like a lot of people starting out nowadays, there's a lot of pressure. I'm going to say younger generation. I feel old now, but I think I'm officially middle-aged, right? Where they feel like they got to have it all figured out right away, right? And they can't deviate that. They can't pivot off that path, right? And so I love that you're just kind of like, this is what I'm into right now. I'm going to go for it, and then just make relationships along the way and just kind of, pivot as things come my way. And the stand-up thing, I gotta say, I did it for a hot second before COVID. I took like an 8-week class in Improv Boston. I was doing open mic nights, and then COVID hit, and I just haven't gotten back up there since. But it really helps you connect, like with so when you talk about pitching and stuff. I remember I was doing a meeting in Chicago for a client of the PropTech I was with at the time, the CEO. I had started the class, and he was like, what are you doing? You're night and day from like when you started doing these things. He's like, is it the stand-up thing? I'm like, I guess. Yeah. So, like you got to pivot, you got to read the audience, you got to see, what's landing and what's not. And so, yeah, but if anybody's listening and you're younger and you feel like you don't have it figured out, man, listen, Bob's doing okay. Bob's doing all right.
I would say this too, is I think, you know, I'm 56. So, and I think, you know, you learn a lot, you know, not always guys, you know, when I was your age, man, I'm not that guy. But I think one thing that I think is a good rule is the difficulty is when you're stuck in the waiting place, when you don't know what to do next, and you're like, I don't really know. That's hard. There's a Dr. Seuss book, I think, called The Waiting Place. I think it talks about the waiting place, I think.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I remember that book, like, Dr. Seuss, the old philosopher.
I think he got canceled. Didn't he get canceled?
He did. I think he was a Nazi, maybe.
We can still talk. Yeah, but we can still talk about it.
Don't sue me, Dr. Seuss, but somebody told me you're a Nazi. I don't know if it's true. I'm not saying it is. I think that's why you might have gotten canceled. You might have been pro all of that, which I think is historically not.
But the waiting game. Let's talk about because this is something that a lot of people experience pain from.
Right, and I remember this as a kid. Is that in like I said, not to keep talking about Dr. Seuss, but I just remember it. Is it said sometimes you're going to find yourself in the waiting place, and that's okay. Like, it's okay, it'll pass. And I think that the waiting place it's okay. It is. I think that for me, when you get really stuck in the waiting place, for me, that's really hard because I'm such a person that, like, I've always got to be like, oh, I this ended and now what's my new thing? And I think that I've like jumped at that twice where I'm like, something ended and I didn't have my new thing lined up, and I jumped at something twice, and both times it ended up being a mistake.
Really?
I think. And but what I do now in the waiting place is, if I get stuck in the waiting place, instead of pressuring myself to pick a thing to do, I take something that I know that I like and I decide that I'm going to learn about it. And it doesn't have to be work. Like, I'll give you, because I'm just a weirdo. I love travel and I love history and I love to read. So I'll just decide that I just, like, at one time I just wanted to learn. I travel a lot. I'm into conflict. Like I like studying, not studying is too strong a word, but I like to learn about like the breakup of Yugoslavia. That fascinates me. The Sandinista movement in Nicaragua, and then they overthrow the government, and then the Contra rebels and Reagan and all that, like, that fascinates me, right? So I'll pick a topic and just be like, I'm just going to go learn a boatload about this thing that interests me that maybe nobody else cares about. So, like, the things that I've dug in over the years, like I love pirates. I just like pirates. They're the original entrepreneur. So I can talk about pirates all day long. I like the Contra thing. I've studied the heck out of the whole Yugoslavian thing. I've studied. You know what you can do? Go learn a language. Download a thing and learn a language. I don't care what it is. Pick a thing and go learn about it while you're in the waiting place. Because what can happen is you can find, number one, you'll always use that knowledge. You'll always have that in your brain. And it can get you into communities and get you into in connections. And I think anything that you're ingesting in your head, I'm one of those guys who's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I'm going to die and not know how rack and pinion steering works. And it's going to make me crazy on my deathbed because I don't know. Like,
what is that? I don't know what is that?
It's a thing that gets you drive a car and you got rack and pinion steering. I don't know anything about it. I never will.
You know that, Ryan?
No, I never heard of it.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But just pick some way. I could have had a better reference for you guys there. I wish I knew what's another thing? I wish I knew how, like, plasma television screens worked. How does the plasma turn into? I'm going to die not knowing that. And if I do learn that, then there's 94 other things I'm not going to know. They're going to make me crazy.
Dude, I think that's such sage advice, seriously, right? And I don't want to detract too much too, but, like, you know, with AI, and we're talking a lot about people needing to maybe upskill or reskill at a certain point, be able to think a little bit more creatively or whatever. I think taking that waiting space and maybe filling it with something and stepping outside your comfort zone a little bit, I think that's incredible advice. I think that's awesome.
Take an improv class. Do that. Anything. Don't sit on your couch and watch Netflix. And if you want to watch Netflix, watch something good and that gets your brain going.
100%.
And, we're only here a short period of time, man. We're not here that long. So learn, travel, explore. Don't waste time in the waiting place. Fill it with something that don't get stuck. It's hard. Depression's hard. Anxiety's hard.
Yes.
Everybody, everybody suffers from that. Like, it used to be a thing. Nobody says they're depressed, or you say, hey, everybody on the planet.
10 milligrams of Lexapro a day, baby. I'll say it.
Baby. Xanax to sleep every night. That's what I do. Because otherwise, Oh man, if I don't take Xanax and I go to bed, my brain, it's like a
Your brain
monkey.
just keeps working,
Oh my
Bob.
God, I got a monkey banging cymbals in my head. And it's never stop.
Yeah.
I sleep like a baby. I'm sorry for you too.
I sleep great now because I figured out my daily cocktail. Like, I mean, like, no shame, no shame. Nobody should ever
Yeah,
feel
of
ashamed
course
about
not.
it. No,
Yeah.
no, seriously. All right.
We haven't talked about work at all. I love this.
I could keep asking you questions all day about this, but we haven't even gotten off your journey. So let's throw a little PropTech in here. Okay. We're going to talk about PropTech a little bit. You see a lot of companies come through Reach, right? You evaluate a lot of companies over the last 6 years or so. Is there, I don't want to say trend, what kind of problems are folks trying to solve these days, or allegedly try to solve? All that. What are you seeing these days? What have you seen in the past? Are there trends?
Yeah, I think I mean, we see. I mean, I see everything. Now, I want to make sure, I do commercial, right?
Yes.
So I'm not doing
Yes.
anything sort of on the residential buy sell. I'm not,
Right.
not on that house.
Yeah.
But some of the trends that I'm sure you guys have seen too is, big data, data lakes, unstructured data, getting insights out of unstructured data, applying AI to that data is obviously now one of the hottest topics.
Hey, what's a data lake for those that don't know that are listening?
Data lake is sort of a data lake is go take all of your disparate data sets and dump them in a big giant lake of stuff and don't really organize it and worry about it. So picture you've got 5 rivers that dump into a lake, and it's just pouring water into that lake. Just create the data lake, and then there's going to be tools. Business intelligence has been one of the tools that's been talked about. Right. But now you can have AI go, hey man, go look in the lake and see what kind of insights you can pull out of there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a game changer these days.
Yeah, it's huge. So I've been seeing a lot of that. Starting to see things like AI automation to replace menial task type stuff. So seeing a lot of that. Seeing a lot of generative design stuff that I really like. So I'll tout one of our companies that I love. A company called ARX, ARX.city. Went through a program 2 years ago. It was just 2 guys, 2 brothers. And they had the idea of, hey, if I'm a single family housing developer in Seattle and I want to build 150 houses and I need to find the lots and I need to find the locations and I need to underwrite all of those. Underlight. I just said underlight. That makes no sense. Underlight. Comedy thing. Anytime you screw a word up, just point it out and then just move on.
Yeah.
I'm underlighting. A lot of people underwrite.
Good advice.
I underlight. So, and then they have to underwrite 150 properties, but really they probably had to underwrite 1,000 to get to their 150 deals. And this would take years and years and years.
Yeah.
So ARTS uses generative design and AI and a data lake. And what they do is they map out the entire county, every single parcel. There's the data out there. Then they run their models off of every parcel and all the zoning and says, we can build a house here, here, here. It puts those plots on a map. Then you can click on it and then it underwrites the development of the house in that, on that lot, and it does it in seconds.
Wow.
So you take literally years of work and you can do it in seconds. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible.
And then you start to see, and then you got, okay, so that's like a high tech thing. But then, we've got sexy things like commercial insurance, OBIE, OB insurance. Instead of taking 2 months to figure out your commercial insurance, they can get you underwritten and get you priced in 3 days. Appraisals, you're getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of appraisals. They're all in different formats. You can't do any document reading from them. Every appraisal has a different format. You can't then have any big data off of that. We have a company called Valkyrie that's got like an automated appraisal platform. So you guys would know this. It's all about automation.
Yep.
Centralization.
Yep.
Centralizing and making all of your data readable.
Yep.
And then you get your trends that change over time. But we go from low tech, not really low tech, but unsexy tech that can be huge, like commercial insurance, all the way up to generative design. So we're really sort of all over the map. We're trying to make things fast. Here's what we do. Take something dumb, slow, and expensive, make it smart, fast, and cheap. If you can do one of those 3 things in any industry, you got yourself a company.
That's some great advice. Man.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about like reducing workload, streamlining, like these tedious processes that you have to deal with every day, and like really getting like the tenant's needs in place, right,
Yep.
Bob? Like, I think that's like so important when it comes to designing new tech.
Speed the transaction.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Speed the transaction, make it cheaper, faster, better, get you better data, make your underwriting better, make your insurance information better so you can de-risk it. All of those things quicker, smarter, faster.
Bob, so for the people that are doing those jobs today that are afraid that their jobs might be replaced or automated or whatever, what do you have to say to address like that fear and that concern for those folks? What can they what can they start doing today?
If I was let's say I'm a commercial broker and I'm the person who's supposed to find that original home builder to go find the 150 sites, and now I'm terrified that guy's gonna. I as the broker should maybe go get an ARCS license and become the expert at ARCS, and then call your customers and go, hey man, you guys are doing 150 development. I can do that for you. I know all about this. I can make it go quick. So embrace technology and be the first mover on that technology to have a competitive advantage. Don't be the ninth adopter who's like, oh, everybody else is using this tool that's kicking my ass. Adopt.
It's the whole thing where like people talked about like being a broker 2.0, and now we're like getting to like that broker 3.0 stage where you just need to really have all the data in front of you in order to meet your client needs, right? Here's
a silly example. Ready? Remember, you guys know what a waxy is? You know what a waxy is?
No.
There's an Irish tune called the Waxy's Dargle, and it's a Dargle is a party. I'm
a couple Middle Eastern folks here, man.
Right. So there's an Irish jig called Waxy's Dargle, and it's a I don't know, a song from 200 years ago or whatever. And but a waxy was a candle maker, and a dargle was a party. So there's this folk tune about the Waxy's Dargle, the candle maker's party. But this is how I would think about like what happened to candle makers, what happened to chimney sweeps, what happened to buggy whip drivers, what happened to those, right? Here's what should have happened to them. A waxy should have said, hey man, you know what I ought to do is I ought to figure out how to sell light bulbs or become an electrician or whatever the next thing is on the way. Buggy whip driver should have maybe gotten a driver's license and been like, hey man, I'm going to be a driver for a rich dude who's got this new fangled car. If you're a chimney sweep, what be the new chimney installer? Like, you don't have to be like, I used to be a refrigerator salesman and now I got to learn how to program computers. No, you don't. You don't have to. Just embrace technology in your vertical. And become valuable at that new technology in your vertical that you've already got so much knowledge about.
That's such great advice. That's really, because I know that some people are freaking out about, right? Like, oh, my job's going to get replaced or whatever. Yeah. There might be some, but like, the skill set, the institutional the subject matter expertise, that's transferable, right? Like that's not going away. So
if you're worried about AI taking your job, go learn about AI and how to start to apply it. And then you're on the forefront of what AI is going to do. And then you can start to be like, hey man, that AI thing's coming, but you know what I do every day? I do this. We should show AI to do that. And then people go, oh, that's a great idea. What else could we have AI do? And then you become that guy or that woman. That's awesome.
Bob, I just find it so incredible. I've been, reading about other companies and how like they have to do this whole like buy-in for their employees who are actually using the tech because they're just so afraid about implementing it on a day-to-day basis. Like, it's just like, just go in, dive in and start using the tech, start learning, and, just embrace it, as you said.
Yep. And I think that there's a bunch of different methods to do that. One, you can top down it, which is the company makes that decision, then you can push it down.
Yeah.
And I think, that can work. I also think that companies can set up an innovation arm and then hire some really smart people to then start to dig into the new tech and then figure out how to start to deploy the tools into their organization.
Right.
And if you don't do that, what's going to happen is you're going to get a bottom up effect, which is the people are going to start to say, I use this thing because it's awesome. And now you kind of control it less. But your early adopters are the ones that are going to start to be like, oh yeah, I got this new tool and it's awesome. And it's actually not all bad that it comes bottom up, because then you got buy-in from the user base.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people go, hey man, what's that tool that you're using that you brought to the forefront? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm using this or I'm using that. And you're like, wow, that thing really moves the needle. And then it can move up the chain in the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, that change management component is huge, and it can be tricky. So
Well, and training is hugely important, for the type of buy-in that you want to get.
Absolutely. Yeah. Training is a big deal because people don't, even me, and I'm a technologist guy, I'll get sent a new tool. Sometimes I'm like, nah, I don't want to use that. What I'm doing is fine. And then once I finally embrace it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is better. This is cooler.
we have a whole nother episode on that training, change management, human behavior, all that. Maybe we'll have you back on. Maybe we'll have you back on from Costa Rica.
Well, you're probably not going to have me back on because we're not going to get done with this one yet. You don't know what's going to happen yet.
Oh no, trust me. We're gonna have you back on.
Something bad could happen.
No, trust me. It's CRE unplugged, man. Like this is what we're waiting for you to get really unplugged. Speaking of unplugged, we hand you a magic wand and we say, Bob Gillespie, you can change anything about the prop tech industry. What's irking you? What's pissing you off, man? Like, what if you could just wave a magic wand and make something happen or change, or whether it's people's mentality, whatever? What would it be?
Well, I think that I've been doing this. I've been in prop tech for this like my 9th year, maybe. And I think that we still have like that walled garden sort of mentality a little bit where, I don't want to give my data up because it's an advantage. I don't want to share this because it's my thing. It's my deal. I don't want to, I don't want to utilize a CRM tool because we're going to build our own in-house because we think it's a competitive advantage, which is silliness. Then you got everybody's building their own stupid CRM tool when you could just go use an off-the-shelf tool. I think that that's still being done too slowly. I think, and I'm really not like dog whistling here, but I wish in commercial real estate there was more women, more people of color. I wish there was more diversity, and I say that as a 56-year-old white guy. I really. I search for female founders, people of color founders. I think that the world is a richer, brighter, smarter place when we've got different voices, different point of views. And I'm not saying everybody in the room's got to have a point of view that is bringing something to the table and is smart and additive. But I think if we were more diverse, we would have people would say, hold on a second, we've been doing it that way forever. But what if we tried it this way? Couldn't that be a cooler, better way to do it? And I think the more voices we bring in, the better things. I think we're trending that way. I think that people like, I think that, we're definitely at NAR and Second Century Ventures and Reach, are very cognizant of that. And, I will sort of look at my portfolio and be like, boy, my class, I hope it's not 8 white guys. Like I take that very seriously.
Yeah.
Older, I still feel like I'm 35, but I'll tell you, like my female entrepreneurs are some of the toughest, best, smartest, hardest business people in the world. We've got great female founders in our portfolio. We've got international people in our portfolio. We have African Americans. We got Hispanics. Like I think that we're all richer, smarter, and brighter when we do that. And I think commercial real estate is, I think actively trying to make that change. And it just takes time and effort to do that. But, I think that the actuarial tables on commercial real estate is probably, still lagging general society, I would think. And I think it's better as we sort of fill out and make our own industry more representative of what our country is like and what the world's like.
Yeah, we can agree with you more about that. Nadine and I talk about this all the time. And I think you would agree that it really starts like with the younger generation and having better mentorship so that they really understand the industry from someone higher up. And I think they can grow into, a really great executive or professional in the industry.
Yep. And what can be difficult is you'll get, I look at 150 companies and, you'll get, 10% are women founded, right? And then you're like, okay, does that mean that I take 10% into my class? Because that's the percentage. Or do I have to make the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to change things and I'm going to take 25% because I'm going to try to have impact on this. Even though perhaps one of those, just by sheer numbers, not by talent, just by sheer numbers, that might not be one of the best, your top 8 to top 10 companies or whatever it is. Do you have to conscientiously make that decision to be, I'm going to change it because it's got to start somewhere? And that's a discussion we have a lot and we take very seriously is, how are we affecting change in the industry to sort of fix these things?
Well, you know what? Amen to you guys having those conversations, Bob, and taking them seriously, because as you said, a lot of companies are starting to have those conversations. A lot aren't yet. A lot don't think that there's a problem. And so, things are slow to change, but they are changing. And so refreshing to hear your take on that. Really, really refreshing.
And I know it can sound like lip service, but like go look at our portfolio and like look at the classes that I take in, and you'll see that the numbers really do back up what we're talking about.
You don't really strike me as a lip service kind of guy, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I just sounded political. I sounded like a politician.
Yeah, but it came across genuine.
Good, excellent.
Yeah. So speaking of, Ryan mentioned, younger generation and mentoring. We talk to a lot of folks. We go to a lot of conferences. A lot of these events, RetCon and ClimateTech and all that. And, I run into a lot of younger folks. I run into a lot of younger women, and they're like, what advice would you have to give to me? I want to have a career in PropTech, right? Or in commercial real estate, whatever that may be. You got an 18-year-old kid. So besides wearing deodorant and brushing their teeth on a regular basis, what sage advice would you give to the next generation wanting to come up in our fine industry?
Boy, that's it's some simple stuff. Like, here's one thing that I don't think I was good at until I was maybe almost even 40, was because there were no tools. Building and maintaining your network. Build your network and then actually curate it. Like, get a LinkedIn profile, do that, pull it out, start to attack, link into people. Anytime, and I'm not kidding, although if you guys bury me in requests after this, if you email me and be like, hey man, I'm a college kid, or I'm a young professional, and can I get a half hour of your time to talk about your journey and how you got, you get my calendar invite and you pick a time and I'll talk to you for a half hour. So if you talk to enough people, you're going to start to, build your network. And I think that your network is kind of how you start to like create sort of a community in which you're like, well, hey, you know what? I'm not your guy, but I know Ryan. And Ryan then goes, you know what? I'm not your guy either, but I know, Nadine knows somebody who might.
Yeah.
And you make those hops, and then somebody's like, oh yeah, actually you're a really good fit here. Right. So I've been doing kind of that. I don't think I was very good at that for my first 15 years of my career, but I think I've been excellent at that now. Where sort of, I think that's a big part of it. I think another thing is, I think a mistake that entrepreneurs make are, I want to start a company. I'm going to create a book that monkeys can read. And you're like, what? Why? That was my idea. Right. Okay. I think I said this earlier, what you want to do is identify a problem that you're going to fix first, I think, and then build a solution around that. I think trying to be, I'm not like, the iPhone is a good example of a thing where people are like, I'm going to create this iPhone. If you're like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. And then they created it. It was unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
I'm not that smart, but I'm pretty good at going, hey, that thing's fucked up. I bet I could get me and two guys to build a thing that fixes that. I bet I can do that.
Yeah.
And I think that is how I would attack entrepreneurship in any industry. Commercial real estate, go and be like, oh, what's really screwed up? The way that mortgages are underwritten and this and that, and earnest money, that's a stupid process, and insurance a dumb process, and blah, 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 blah. And then go learn the shit out of that and then go, I got a better mousetrap that attacks that. That's how I would think about entrepreneurship. I think it's too hard to go, I'm going to create something new. I think that's really hard to do.
Right. And that's what everybody hears, right? That's like the story. They like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be the next Steve Jobs or, Elon Musk or something like that. And you can be an entrepreneur in a million other different ways.
Yep.
And make true impact.
Solve a problem, man. Smarter, cheaper, faster.
Solve a problem.
All you gotta do.
Yep. Bob, do you agree about a lot of these tech investors saying that the next trillionaire will be someone who creates solutions to climate change?
I think that we're all right. I'm gonna answer this in a long-winded fashion. I think that since I've been doing this, that there's a new tech hotspot that comes along every year-ish. In no particular order: IoT, blockchain, ClimateTech, AI. Here's a big one on the blockchain: fractionalized ownership of real estate. I've seen that one 58 times. There's others, but those are sort of the 4 or 5 that pop in my head that are sort of like, this is the new technology and we're going to create a solution. And I think ClimateTech is in there. I think that some of the changes and some of the laws that are happening, like the New York bill that got, that happened, and then the California stuff. Yeah. Canada is passing some things. I think that'll drive some innovation. I heard somebody say this the other day. And I thought this was fascinating. We would rather take our climate solution to the US than to Canada, because in Canada it's being dictated and people are going to do a little bit of the bare minimum. But we think there's more money to be in the United States, not just because of the market size, but because the people that are going to embrace climate tech are ones that are going to try to actually generate ROI and actually drive financial value. And I thought that was a fascinating take on it. I think there will be a giant, massive decarbonization winner at some point. I don't think it'll be the next one. It'll be, some, porn chat outer space thing or something. I don't know. It'll be something bizarre and weird like Snapchat, like it always is. It's always something stupid. That's the next big thing. Yeah. But I do think that, climate, it's all political or whatever. I think we're starting to agree that climate change is a thing. Are we beyond that yet? I don't know. You guys tell me. Are we beyond that it's a thing? Because I think one of our problems is
I'm on board. I mean, it depends who you're talking to, obviously.
But I think that we have 40% of the country that is still like, no, burn dinosaur bones. Let's still do that and kill the earth. I saw a thing today on the news that 49%, this is unbelievable to me, they polled Americans, and 49% of Americans think that the S&P 500 is down this year. It's up 13%. It's up 13%.
Yeah.
But half the people in this country don't follow it, or they listen to news sources that tell them the economy's terrible, that the stock market's terrible. It's up 13% in less than 5 months, and half the country thinks that it's down. So how are we going to agree on climate tech? So we have to drag some people kicking and screaming, but we have a dialogue problem in this country about what are what's real, what's not. Sorry, I got off a political rant there, but I think that really ties into how we tackle climate tech. Is, do we agree this is a problem? Because until we can kind of agree it's a problem, then how do we monetize the solution? And I'm on board. I'm going to move to Costa Rica like in a year. That's one of the greenest countries in the world. Like they're on it down there, right? We got to kind of get on it up here.
Bob, I totally agree with you. And I think what really will change the landscape of climate tech for real estate is to getting more developers, more owner operators to put capital markets towards green solutions. They have, or else it's just not going to work.
And I would like to think too that it doesn't have to be legislative.
Yeah, of course.
It's also, hey man, you don't have to legislate it, because I just met Jill and Dave, and Jill and Dave got a solution that decarbonizes and saves me a shitload of money. That's what's going to be $1 trillion company, right? That's a no-brainer. I plug this thing into the wall and it decarbonizes and it saves me 50% of my energy. Yeah, sign me up. Then we don't have to make it a political discussion about whether or not we're killing the earth. It's just, I don't care if you think it's killing the earth or not. We plug this thing in and it saves me 40% on energy. I don't care.
Yeah, money
that'll
talk.
be a winner, right?
I know. I'm going to leave on this final thought with climate tech, and then I'm going to move on. But I wonder though, because I like to be in your camp as well and think that we can do this without legislation. But I also ask myself, okay, if we're still debating whether or not climate tech is a real thing or not, how much time do we allow to go by until the masses, until enough masses start to invest enough capital to address this? So is it maybe a hybrid approach where we start with a little bit of legislation like we're seeing in New York City and others or whatnot? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I think maybe we'll start with some legislation, and then I'm hoping that that legislation will then incentivize solutions to come to the market, and then somebody's got the code, and we're gonna be like, hey, we got 4 solutions now that actually work for everybody, right?
Totally agree. Speaking of Costa Rica, you're leaving us. You're out. You're moving to Costa Rica, man.
We're gonna keep working, but
but you're moving to Costa, right? You're moving. Tell us about that. Tell us about you moving to Costa Rica.
Yeah, so I've lived internationally before. I lived in London for a couple of years. I lived in Istanbul for a couple of years. I'm very comfortable not being at home. I'm very comfortable being sort of a foreigner. I'm comfortable, not like, being attached to my news or, some people feel disconnected from the world when they're not, sort of in their place. I just don't feel that way.
Yeah.
I've been to 67 countries, so I'm 2/3 on the way to 100. I'm hopefully going to crush that number and get way above that number. But I really enjoyed living internationally. Yeah, I think we looked at a bunch of places, but it's very safe. They don't even, they don't have a military there. They're not going to have a coup. Their neighbors aren't going to invade them. Panama's not invading anybody, and Nicaragua is not going to. What are they going to invade them with, a Toyota Camry? Rub sticks together right now. What are they going to do? And then there's a ton of American jobs down there. Amazon's got a bunch of jobs down there. There's all kinds of expats down there. There's very, very green. I also like it's in our time. It's it's either 1 hour or it's an hour earlier on the same time zone as Chicago, depending on daylight savings time or not. Flights are easy. It's not super cheap like some of the other some of the Central American countries, but it's it's about 70% of Chicago. The people are nice, and nobody's mad at anybody.
Yeah.
I tell people this. You ever do this? You get to you're at the grocery store, especially if you live in a big city, and you and the same person kind of like get to the grocery store, you get to the aisle at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you go in front of somebody, you maybe didn't even see them, or you just thought you're ahead of them, and then they're behind you. That guy cutting like that guy. Like that guy or that woman?
I know that guy.
For those of you that are listening and can't see Bob's face right now, I'm really sorry, man. You guys are missing out. Okay.
Or you get to a stop sign at the same time, and then you kind of go, but then they kind of go, and then you kind of go, and then it's my turn, man. Like that person. That person doesn't exist. They don't exist in Costa Rica. They're just like, we got monkeys. You go. I don't give a shit. Go ahead. There's sloths.
Right.
I'm in a bikini. I'm going on a boat later. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like that. It's a different. Nobody will come up and just start to want to argue with you about bullshit. Like, it's just, I don't know. I get worn down by that kind of stuff. I try to be kind of a positive person, and that sort of the dialogue here sort of wears me out.
Sure. I get that. I'm the same way. Yeah. I'm the same
way. Do you surf?
Oh, go ahead.
I don't surf. I'm old, Ryan. I want to learn. I tore my rotator cuff and I had surgery on it, and I haven't tested it out yet, but I have my buddy, Graham Elwood, another one of my comedy buddies. We were just out in El Salvador together, and he surfs, and I was talking to him about it. It sounds like something I would dig. So I'm going to give it a shot.
Very cool. Well, listen, we would love to have another conversation with you. We're going to do it in Costa Rica. We're inviting ourselves.
Beautiful. Do you open your Costa Rica office down there?
Yeah. CRE Unplugged is going on tour to Costa Rica Q1 of next year. Bob's going to show us the ropes. Listen, Bob Gillespie, you are a gem of a human being. Seriously. Thank you so much. No, I mean that. Thank you so much for your time today. There's so much good recommendations and advice and everything. And thank you for your time, man. We loved having you. And seriously, we'd love to have another conversation with you again.
Appreciate it anytime. And when you guys are at if anybody, I'll be at Blueprint. I'll be at ClimateTech, New York. So if anybody is there, come by our booth.
Yeah,
let's make sure.
Go say hi to Bob, and we'll be there too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Awesome. Bob Gillespie, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break right now for a word from our sponsors, but be sure to come back for a recap with me and Ryan. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.
Hey there, CRE Unplugged fam. We would like to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the Game Changers over at Hilo, the customer experience platform for buildings that's turning heads in the real estate world.
That's right. Can we talk about how Hilo is transforming the way we manage properties and create unforgettable experiences? Ryan, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about Hilo?
Well, Nadine, it's all about reducing friction in property management. Hilo is like the magic wand that makes everything seamless and efficient. Say goodbye to those time-consuming tasks and hello to streamlined operations and communications.
Efficiency is crucial, but what about personalized experiences? Hilo takes it to the next level with a vision to tailor each interaction to the needs and preferences of its customers.
And let's not forget the community aspect. Hilo builds vibrant, connected communities. It's fostering a sense of belonging and togetherness.
Now, here's something that truly sets Hilo apart: their commitment to advancing ESG initiatives. They're not just about buildings, they're about making a positive impact on the environment. That's a win-win for everyone.
So, to our listeners out there, if you're ready to elevate your properties, digitize and enhance customer experience, and maximize satisfaction, Hilo is the answer. Please visit hiloapp.com for more information. That's hiloapp.com. Nadine, Bob, I mean, what an amazing guest. I mean, he encompassed every subject matter that we want to cover for our podcast. And it was just so amazing to hear him eloquently talk about all those things, right? I mean, it was just incredible.
He He knocked it. You're right. He checked every box of what it is that we believe in and why we set out to do this, right? Like, number one, the guy doesn't have a linear career path or journey. And as somebody who doesn't have one either, right? I appreciate that. And I just think more people need to hear that, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Number two, he's such a great human being, right? And number three, it's just actionable, great advice, man, for like, what people can be doing. Dude, and he's just he's a riot, man. We love Bob Gillespie.
Oh, he was hilarious. I was just like laughing out loud. Like every time he like just started opening up about, his kids or entrepreneurship or his, like previous roles, just great stuff.
Yeah, I love it. My biggest takeaways, go after what you're passionate about. Don't always worry about your plan 5-10 years down the road. My biggest takeaway, and it's a bit applicable for me too, is the waiting space. Oh, that waiting space is painful, man. That is a painful spot to be in. And what greater way to fill it than to just learn something new, and you never know where it's going to take you. So that was my biggest takeaway from this.
I mean, yeah, he talks about like being uncomfortable and trying out new things, trying out new roles. And it's just so key to your success is to be as uncomfortable as possible. I think that leads to growth, and it's like one more thing that I wished I got to like follow up with him about, because I'm such a nerd about this, is tokenization of real estate. I mean, and just like the issues that comes with that. I mean, I always have like my students read this case study called about Fluidity, which was like a Brooklyn startup. And, they were trying to solve the tokenization of digital assets. And it just doesn't work right now, because even though you think like you're trying to reinvent the wheel and how to, tokenize like a commercial real estate property and being able to sell it to the masses, it just doesn't work. You have a complexity issue, you have a liquidity issue because this goes upstream to downstream. And, there's just so many things that's still not there yet for you to accomplish that. So I wish I got to talk to him more about that, but we'll have him on again.
No, ask him that when we do the show from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
All right. Bob Gillespie, safe travels to you, my friend, to Costa Rica. Thank you so much again to our guest, Bob. Loved having you. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to hear what you think, or if you have any questions that you want for us to read on air, reach out to us at info@CREunplugged.com. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to your podcasts.
See you next time. And until then, keep your combos real and unplugged.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Peace out.